Right, so today on my Love Being Naked show, we have a very, very special guest, and her name is Maren Wilkhaus, who is a intuitive transformational coach. And today, it's so first of all, welcome. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, and it is wonderful because we've done some work together. You've worked in collaboration with me on my Love Being Naked ebook, which was
Yes.
which is now available on Amazon actually. So it's like it's now been uploaded. So that's wonderful to have you on the front cover.
Amazing.
Yes, and it's like this podcast talk show and those books are all very much about being able to express your naked truth, being able to dive deeper into who you are, being able to just put yourself out there without the fear of judgment and what other people think. And I think that what you're doing, because I've been in your group, your Free Yourself group for the last month, I think it is now. And I just think that the essence of all of this is self-love. So what we're going to do over the next hour is talk with you because you're a specialist in self-love and intuitive transformational coaching. So I think we could have a very deep discussion breaking this down and getting more awareness. Okay, so start off with let's looking at self-love. How would you describe self-love? What is self-love to you?
That's a really beautiful question, and it's such a broad topic.
Yes. So if you can answer in 60 minutes, it'll be amazing.
Yeah. I'm just like seeing what wants to come up about that in this moment. What I feel like self-love is a relaxation in every moment within ourselves, that the way we perceive ourselves, others, the world is from some kind of soft, kind, gentle perspective, instead of a have to defend or have to fight or have to struggle with or have to argue with. Self-love is feeling the base within ourself, the grounding within ourself, that is self-sourced. So we when we tap into this self-love, we realize, we become aware that there is nothing outside of us that we need to claim or own or chase after, that will actually give us a feeling of contentment or satisfaction or relaxation, or this feeling of being loved that we actually are. Because it's often we tend to see like we have to get a partner, or we have to get a car, or we have to get a different job or a house in order to feel that love. But our most true desire is to feel the relaxation in every moment, the peace in every moment, with no matter how the circumstance changes or what person walks in or out of our lives or what is like going on in the world. What we truly want is to be tapped in and self-sourced into this field of self-love, so we can just stay centered in that, and everything around us can change, and everything around us can really look like chaos. But because we are so connected to the love within ourselves, we don't get influenced that much by it.
Yes, I think that's a.
And it doesn't mean, and it doesn't mean we don't feel it because we feel deeply. I mean, I feel everything deeply, even deeper than before, and I'm even more sensitive than before.
How do
Didn't thought that was possible.
how do you cope then if you're more if you're more sensitive than before, if you're feeling everything deeply, and yet you are connecting to the source to get the love rather than connecting to the external world to have the love? Do you know what I mean? Because as you say, we're all programmed to the certain point of until we get into this awareness that the love we desire or the love that we need or is from an external source.
Yeah.
So you're more sensitive now. So how are you coping with this transition?
It's actually a really natural unfolding that happens without having needing a strategy or like a coping mechanism or having to shield your aura or close it off. What happens when we become so intimately connected to the love that we are is that from that space we attract, we choose, um, um, and circumstances, people who actually reflect that love instead of reflecting the fear or the like the hardship of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also it brings naturally, it brings a deeper trust. So whatever unfolds, like whatever is the circumstance I seem to perceive, I trust that because I know this can only come from love, and I don't have to like it in the moment when it's happening, even especially when it's something that gives us an expanded perspective. It sometimes um, like bumps against like our limiting beliefs or our current beliefs. So it doesn't feel always, it doesn't feel like nice, it doesn't feel pleasant. But trusting that as well, trusting that the discomfort is also just an invitation to love deeper, I think that is basically my kind of way I live, and the way I perceive like this life and myself and others, is that I just can't accept that there is an absence of love. It's just not unacceptable for me to believe that is not coming from love. And I might not feel it in that way. I might not have that clarity in the moment. But then I always say to myself, okay, I must be not seeing something clearly now because I'm not experiencing the expansiveness, the openness, or the relaxation or the love. But I trust that it will become clear in time.
So then you're sick.
And so by
Yeah, Karen.
sorry.
So in that moment of of not seeing things clearly, it's there's something that's been blocked, but rather than projecting that as something negative or something bad, you're actually saying, okay, no, I'm just going to wait because I'm trusting that the love is there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And and that's very interesting because that's also then you're projecting from your source energy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so immediately the resistance is softening because I realign with the love. Although my personality doesn't know it yet, doesn't understand it yet, doesn't see the whole picture, that's fine. I can accept that because that is the whole purpose of this personality or of this ego structure or the mind or however you want to call it. That's the it will never be understood within that realm. So I realign myself to that love, and then I can soften and relax my human perspective a little bit more, which enables me to go deeper and deeper.
Okay, so we're talking about some different things here, which I think it's important for the audience to get an understanding of of exactly who you're talking about, because you're talking about the ego and you're talking about I,
Mm-hmm.
and you're talking about like two different people within you. So how do you perceive yourself as what's the core of you and what's the ego, and how do you see the difference between this? How do you explain what the ego is?
Mm.
Briefly.
Well, in the end, there is no difference, of course, but um, like everything that feels limited to me, that feels like a constriction, that feels like it could get hurt or it could get offended or I have to defend, that doesn't feel like an opening or an expanding. That is, you could consider it to be coming from the ego or
Right.
from the pain body, or how do you want to, like, there are so many different names, and I don't really like to use ego, but sometimes it comes out that way.
Mm-hmm.
But because there is, and especially in the spiritual world, there's such a judgment also against like the ego. Oh, we have to fight the ego, and the ego is wrong. And no, it's not about that at all. It's about including it into the wholeness that we are. It's about including it into this field of love that we are. So nothing is excluded, nothing is wrong. The ego is not a bad thing we have to get rid of. No, we have to integrate that into the love that we are, and we have to tell it it's safe to feel and to trust, actually.
Right. Okay. And when you're talking about the source, where does source come from? How do you connect to it? What is source?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, the source is something I can feel inside me. I can tap into, like, maybe it's my heart. Like, if I connect to my heart, I feel uh, the connection to source. And with source, you can say, like, source energy is like this infinite intelligence, this feeling of well-being, this feeling of love, um, um, feeling of relaxation, of peace, of silence. Um, but I think it works for everyone. It works in a different way to feel that connection. For some people, it's really going into deep meditation and staying in silence. And for me, it's going out in nature and feeling, just relaxing my body and really feeling that connection, and that everything's well, that all is well, that I'm doing fine, and nothing really is happening, and I can feel the love in myself. And if I connect to my heart, and not my physical heart, but like the energetic heart, the portal, one
Mm.
could say, um, then I can feel that, I can tap into that feeling of all is well, and then I shift my perspective on what's going on in the outside world.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And it's really interesting because I've seen you in nature,
Yeah.
and you just put the camera on, and you have these very deep, open, sharing sessions,
Yeah.
which feels like you are source. You're talking directly from source,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very different way of communicating, with people.
Yeah.
Because it does create this sort of complete breakdown of going through the sort of the ego disappears, and you're literally like connecting to source energy. I think that's the feeling that I feel that comes through.
Yeah.
And why do you feel it's important to share those messages?
um I don't really know if I personally feel it's important. Um, it's such an energy that just feels nice to express. It feels like I feel happy to let that out. It's almost like if I write something, it's not it's not a process of me thinking about what I'm going to write. It's almost this urge, and I have to do it. There's no way I can stop myself from doing it. So
Mm-hmm.
in that sense, I don't have an agenda with it. I don't have a strategy or a plan, but I just, when I feel the impulse, I just have to do it. Otherwise I'm conflicting. I don't know. I feel like I'm holding back some
Yeah.
kind of life flow force that wants to flow, and I don't even know, because sometimes I just feel make a video and I don't even know what to talk about and just put on the camera, and then I just wait for the words to come through, because I really don't know what I'm going to talk about often.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like playing with that more and more, and allowing myself more and more to just go out there and just show myself, and just show up, basically show up in the moment, and just trust that whatever wants to flow through me is the way to go. So
Yeah.
yeah, and it feels good. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's beautiful. I mean, I totally understand it, because that's what I do when I write my poems and stuff, and I put it on Facebook. I literally can create some image or something in the moment, and then I just sit there with a blank page, and the words come, and it's just like it's just an express. It's just you're just expressing. You're just expressing
Yeah.
self. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually the sort of the divine human experience that we're supposed to be having.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel it's wonderful that you're freeing yourself up to be able to be doing this. I'm really curious, what was it in your life that triggered all this inside of you? What was it that triggered you to have an awakening to go from where you were before to this beautiful expression of who you are now?
Yeah. Um, I think the biggest trigger was a personal crisis, as for a lot of people who go into deeper realizations or awakenings or clarity or whatever you want to call it. But for me, it was the separation with the father of our son. And it caused me to totally disconnect from the matrix, from the current beliefs and how people lived in the society, and it really made me tap into whole different perspectives, and it made me go really deep. And I remember even the first weeks after we separated, I could feel this detachment from everything, like even from my own son, from my own child, which brought up fears too, because I didn't even know who I was anymore in relation to anyone. Like in relation to him, like I'm supposed to be his mother, but I don't really feel like I'm his mother. And how what does it look like, and what role do I have to have? And then someone asked me like, oh, do you prefer this or that? And I was like, I don't even know what I prefer anymore. I don't have a preference anymore.
Yes.
And I honestly couldn't come up with something. And I felt so like, what's happening with me? And yeah, so I mean, a lot of people might recognize these kind of, yeah, like what happens when you wake up to different perspectives, that it gets really blurry, or you get really confused about a lot of things in your life, and you question it, and then the mind comes up like, wow, what about this, and what happens if you're not that anymore? And that fear of dying comes up. And so I had, for the last almost 4 years, I had a really intense journey of a lot of trauma release, and a lot of dying, basically, to dying of the old identity,
Mm-hmm.
of the role I thought I had to play, of my like personality, preference, or whatever. Yeah, so it was a lot of releasing and a lot of letting go, and a lot of intensity. um,
Yes.
I wouldn't recommend that to anyone, but I think my journey is all about intensity. I have this intense energy. I am this strong catalyst for change for other people, and I have that for myself as well. So I noticed, like, at times I really felt like I was standing next to myself, like looking at this soul that wanted to choose like all these paths that are terrifying basically for my person. Like, and like really asking myself like, oh my God, am I really have to gonna do this? You know, like, is this really the way to go? Because I constantly had to go let go of a lot of people and securities, and I really stepped into the deep, and not knowing, and really living moment by moment, and that brought up a lot of fear
Yeah.
and a lot of old depression, and yeah, and anxiety and panic, and yeah.
So it sounds like you had to do a lot of surrendering there to
Yeah.
to get through that, because that's like,
Yeah.
I totally understand. I know my awakening was 10 years ago, but I've had many awakenings in that time since, as you get more and more deeper and
Yeah.
more perspectives and everything else. And um, yeah, it's interesting what you talk about, the trauma, because you have panic attacks. I feel in the last 6 months like I've died 6 times. Um,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? But of
Yeah.
course, it's just my ego that's dying. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that having that going as deep as that, as what you are, is very, very interesting, because we're in this time now of this great awakening, where because all of humanity is going through this shift now, as we're moving into these higher vibrations. The planet's moving into
Yes.
higher vibrations. It's called, the age of Aquarius, or the fifth dimension, or whatever. But it is real, and this is happening, and it's, in order for us to transition into this, I think that there are people who are the way showers, who are experiencing it at first, like yourself and
Yeah.
myself. And that's why it's so important to be able to share these experiences, that no, you're not actually dying. It's
Yeah.
it's your ego that's dying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and even trusting that, because I went to so many times, I went to like hell, I went to the darkest of deepest of darkness ever, like ever imagined to be. And I'm saying this with a smile, but
Yeah, yeah,
actually when I went through it, it was terrifying, it was terrifying. And of course it was just terrifying for the ego. And if you know that, if you are aware that it is just releasing, just letting go of all dense energy, and that the mind, because the mind's releasing too, and so the charge of the thoughts, the energetic charge of the thoughts is resonating with the energy that is being released. So that's really dark too. So I had really a lot of suicidal thoughts, a lot of
okay.
thoughts like, I don't want to be there, I'm going to kill myself, I'm not able to do this anymore, this is too much. I've
Hmm.
had that a lot. I had a lot of what some people could talk about, like these energetic attacks or something. I could, like, I don't really go there that much, but it felt like sometimes like I was really being being attacked, like by this dense energy. And it was really about me becoming a master in my own alignment, and constantly confirming myself, I am light, I am love, no matter what happens, I
Yeah.
trust.
So
And that's,
that's very much of your self-love practice.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's constantly reinforcing, confirming this this human vessel, so to speak,
Hmm.
that it's safe, that it's loved, that everything's okay, that we can trust. Um, uh, it needs a lot of reassurance in some way, because it is really scary, and we can only expand, we can only learn, like children, they can only learn something new when they feel totally safe. And because there is such a lack of safety in a lot of people, in most people,
Mm-hmm.
When these extreme feelings come up, when these extreme circumstances, like now in the world, they bring up so much fear and so much anxiety. So we have to confirm that we are safe to feel that, we are safe to stay present with that, and it's okay.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. 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 And I think there's also um, having safe places to play is also
Yeah,
important. You know,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
and this brings me on to your Free Yourself group.
yeah.
Which I just want to say, I think it's absolutely fantastic that you created that group,
Thank you.
because it has many ways of healing, of self-healing, because I know for a fact, for myself, being able to play in that group, I've had, I think, in the last I don't know, 20 years of my life, I've had issues to do with sexual healing, which have been
Yeah,
blocking me, which have been which have keep me stuck, and it's because I went out wildly and played 20 odd years ago, 25 years ago, something like that, and in the areas of with sex and stuff like that, and with drugs, and with
yeah,
just whoa, as a lot of people I think were. And then I had different experiences from relationships and everything else that just caused blockages,
yeah,
and I felt that being able, in your group, you just, there's just so much fun and laughter and joy and happiness, and you can express sexual things, and you can express sexual energy, and it's just, whatever happens in that group is so healing.
yeah.
you
Beautiful.
yeah, yeah. So I just wanted to know, what was your intention for setting up that group, and if you can just share some more about it.
Yeah, it's I think it's about 2 years ago now. I don't know for sure, but I was going through, well, still really intense realizations. I was really into self-realization. I was in all these groups that were um like uh, yeah, talking about that you have to meditate a lot, and there have to be like, you have to practice, and you have to do this and that, and I was so like I was like, this whole process, whatever like it is that is happening, it is beyond me. So whatever I do, I felt like I don't even have to do something. Like I could put two fingers in my nose and just ride it out, and then the same thing will be happening, will be unfolding, because there is something that my soul wants to live on this planet, and that is truth, and that is my commitment. And so yes, it took me like constantly committing and saying yes to truth. I want the truth, show me the truth. And of course you attract situations and waking up, and it gets speeded up and accelerated, if your intention is really that commitment, that like that diehard commitment to truth. But I didn't feel there was this kind of a rigid recipe to, like, you have to meditate every day, you have to be in silence or whatever, you have to just follow your own flow, and
Totally.
trust that. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, and so I was so sick of the seriousness of people, and even a lot of spiritual people, like, you have to do this, and no, but if you don't meditate. And I was like, fuck it, I don't even like to meditate. When I want to meditate when I want to meditate, not because there's such a bullshit to me. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to go deeper, you have to meditate. That just doesn't feel true to me. So I was just sick of all the seriousness, and I just created that group, and I started posting stuff and videos, and just to make fun of everything. Basically, I just wanted to make fun of all the serious spirituality that was being portrayed, and that was only, I saw people getting more fucked up over, because they they lose like the gentleness and the kindness towards themselves, and they feel they have to become something they're not really, and they have to and it's still like this. I wanted to give it space to breathe. Like, you can just breathe. You can be yourself here. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about, as long as it makes people laugh and makes yourself like laugh, and just celebrate life. And it's all about what we focus on, right? So I felt like, yeah, this is happening already. There's nothing we can do to stop it. This whole process of waking up, of this vibration on earth that is rising and rising. So we might as well just enjoy the ride, right? We might as well just have fun
Yeah.
while doing it. So that inspired me, and it was just a joke. It was really a joke. In the beginning, it was really a joke, and now it's starting to grow more and more, and it's still like a joke to me. And then I get these private messages from people like, wow, your group is such a healing group to me, and thank you. And I'm like, but it's a joke. I'm like, I'm not even aware of, it was not even my intention to do some kind of healing with it, but I can totally see why it's so healing, because it's just,
Fine.
it
It's
demands
just,
nothing.
yeah, yeah, and I think, I think, yeah, it demands nothing. I think that you've touched on many things there, and I think, one of the things that, like, I wrote a book a while ago called "Get Off Your Cross," and it was very much targeted at, spiritual people who are so like, I'm Jesus, or I'm the reincarnation of Jesus, or whatever, like this, because like I thought I was, and I was like, no, you're not Jesus, I am.
Yeah, we all are.
The amount of arguments I had with people saying, no, I'm Jesus. Um,
Yeah.
so it was just like, I just thought, laughter is actually a great healer. Laughter is like, it instantly just gets all that heavy stuff out of people. And in spirituality, there's so much ego, there's so much, all of this energy. So I just think it's really great to have a safe play zone, to be able to just go in and do all this stuff, because what happens is that I can play in that group, and I can just be my true self, and of course it does then take an effect on my whole life, and then I start putting it, then it starts spreading into the rest of my life, and then I get to that stage where I'm just like, I really don't care what people think. And I know that I had got blocked in that respect, because I've had a lot of experiences in the last couple of years where I've had so much negative energy being targeted at me that I literally couldn't cope with that much energy, and I started to sort of get concerned about how people saw me and think of me and everything else. But now, being able to play and just really also, like, sometimes when I have put stuff in that group, and then I think, oh, should I have said that? But then I go back to this place of self-love, and I tune in with my feelings, and I connect to source, and I think, no, it's okay, it's fine. This is who you are in essence.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
And that's what I meant to point a little at, to with your question, like, how do you perceive the ego? Because there really is no difference, because we tend to think like, oh, but is this coming from purity, this expression, or should I post this or whatever? But that's separating yourself from the love you are. And what I mean is this wholeness that we can really trust that whatever expression is like serving everyone involved in the moment, that we can really learn to trust that, because our hearts are open. These people who consider themselves to be empaths or light workers, their hearts are already open. The thing that is blocking them is their self-judgment in their expression of that. So because what I post sometimes has this real fierce energy, or is really like, could be perceived as, I don't know, not so pleasant to people, because the words I use can be like considered to be a little bit tough or a little bit harsh or whatever. But I always come from that place of base in myself, and it feels like peaceful, it feels like love, it feels like source. It never feels like I have a personal interest to lash out or to fight against or to argue against something. It just feels like a real sincere expression in the moment, and so I can trust that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. And I totally get that, because then it's like, because you are a catalyst, and that's the interesting thing. You're the same as me. I'm a catalyst. I know
Yes.
I put stuff out there. I know it can trigger people, and that trigger
Yeah.
will cause all sorts of wonderful things to happen in their lives.
Yeah.
There is that place where your boundary has to be set to say, okay, yeah, I'm doing this from a place of healing, from a place of love.
Yeah, and I have to be so anchored in that love, and I have to um, feel that so much within myself first, because yes, I'm gonna receive a lot of resistance, and I'm gonna receive a lot of projections from people, and I'm gonna be misunderstood. Like 89% of the time, I'm misunderstood by people,
Yeah.
and that's just something I accept. That I'm not even looking for that validation anymore, or understanding, or acceptance externally. That's just my part. I play it, and it's okay. I don't mind that.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, exactly, because it's gone beyond the mind.
Yes, it's something that is not coming from a personal agenda. It's beyond me. I don't even know. I don't have to know. I'm really open in every moment to feel and to explore a deeper truth. I'm not arguing with someone or anyone or anything. Um, and
Yeah, and I think that's really important to understand, because also at the moment, with this whole great awakening that's happening, it's all about
mhm,
ego clashing, and I think that the will, well, I don't know, I have absolutely no idea, but at the moment, people are becoming more and more frustrated
yeah,
because of the egos that are clashing. Don't you feel?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's intensifying, and it will keep intensifying, because as a collective, we want to become really aware of what it is that is happening, and that awareness can only grow when the crisis like increases, and um, we can no longer distance ourselves from it. We can no longer say, because this affects everyone. There's no one, no matter if you're rich or poor or come from a certain class or background or country, everyone is affected by this current world situation. So that's the beauty of it. We cannot distance ourselves from it anymore. So we are all faced to feel that, and to be confronted with our own beliefs in such a way that if we don't change, um, then it means we will only experience more of the hardship and more of the adversities, and it will come very hard actually for us to be here.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it reminds me of a post that I put up in your group, and it was about surrendering, and when you surrender, we become aware that we are each other.
Yeah,
We are one. We are one, and I think
yeah,
that's there's an amazing guy called Greg Braden. I don't know. Have you heard of Greg Braden? Um, he has done a video called Cycles of Time, and in that, it's a YouTube video. In that YouTube video, he talks about how, because we're on a planet, everything moves in cycles, seasons and
yeah,
all sorts of stuff. But he's also talking about conflict, and how the the conflict and the wars and the things that happen on the planet are also going in cycles, and how they're sort of linked into the solar energy. And it's really fascinating. I mean, he goes into an absolute depth. So I'm just skimming the surface here. But what he talks about is that in 2020 the cycles are getting to a point where they are the extremities, the extremes are getting to a crescendo. It's getting to the absolute pinnacle, and that's going to reach its peak at the end of this year, and then it's going to go into this cycle of peace and harmony.
So, beautiful.
So I first heard about this last year, and I was like, oh, I wonder how that's going to pan out. And now now I'm like, oh, okay, right, okay. You know, so it is, and that's why I found it fascinating to come across you on the path, you know, and to see you see what you've been talking about. So really, just with this awareness of the whole planet is going through this cycle now. If you could like tap into this awareness and your understanding of self-love, what comes up in the moment with you?
Like as a message for people, or
yeah. I mean, because I think like we're coming to the end of the call now, and I think that
what I feel is slow down. That when everything speeds up around us and gets intensified, we don't have to go into the turmoil and the storm. It's actually an invitation to slow down our own pace, and to just like breathe deeply and to relax our body and take it all one step at a time. So really that self-love, that kindness, that gentleness towards ourselves, and to really slow down, to see like the outside turmoil as a deeper invitation to slow down, because we're so used to matching the energy of our environment. But that's going crazy now. So in order to find our own base, our own stillness, our own heart, and to connect to the true love we have to slow down.
Mm-hmm. And it's actually something that is quite interesting there, because that whole thing about it is very much, there's all this crazy energy going on, and when people connect with that crazy energy, they can say, oh no, you're being crazy. But also there's that craziness within. So because I remember you talking about this on one of your videos, and you explained it very well. Do you
about other people calling you crazy? Or
yes.
Because they're right. Like they're right. Because everyone has access to the level of awareness, of perception they can access to in the moment. So if their belief system perceives me, for example, acting like a crazy person, I cannot argue with that, because they're right with where they're coming from. From the level of perception, they're totally right, and I don't have to argue with that. I can just say, yeah, you're right. There's nothing in me that wants to fight against that or has to defend anything, because it's true. They're actually speaking truth.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And I think that's that wonderful connection, because it's like that's their projection of you. And if you rise to it, if you connect with it, then it's something like inside of you that's not happy with that, or not healed with that energy, or yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as I have a judgment within myself towards being a crazy person, as long as there's still an attachment and identification, uh, then yeah, I have a problem with someone calling me crazy. But if that's not the case, then I'm allowing every perspective with an open heart, and
Yes.
it's all equally valid.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's that connection to source. That's that beautiful place of love, because once you're just allowing it all to be, then it's like you can sail through this reality. And now I'm like flowing with poetic words.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's such a natural state, and for me as well, because I consider myself to be really lazy, and so I can just indefinitely step out of the way and let everything flow, and I don't have to interfere or argue or with anything anymore, because it's not about me anyway. It doesn't define me in any way, and I can just enjoy and love and stay with an open heart.
Yes, and I think that also being able to step out of the way of it, because there is this flow, there's this really strong flow, and
Yeah.
you can either be going against it, or you can be flowing with it.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, and I feel that this is where we're going. I think that's
Yeah.
tail end of 2020, start of 2021. We're just going to be into this place where there's less resistance to all the stuff that's going on. Don't you feel?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what is going on. Is that's the choice. What I speak when I say love yourself, choose love. That's what I speak about when uh, what I mean. What I'm pointing to is you can choose to resist it, to argue with God, to argue with what is, to argue with what is unfolding right now, and to say no, that's wrong and that's not love, and it should be this way or it should be that way, and this should not be happening. And that's still arguing. That feels like, I mean, it feels like too much effort for me personally. uh, I like to be lazy. um, or we can just like choose from the self-love perspective, and to allow and to trust and to surrender more deeper, and to um, yeah, really go with the flow, and choose the path of least resistance, and choose the path of what feels opening and what feels expansive. And yeah, that's a choice on a personal level one could make, in that sense. To I mean, this is gonna happen, so you can choose either to crawl with your fingernails against the floor and like, I don't want this, I don't want this, and keep like reinforcing you don't want this, or you can just like float on water. You can, that's a choice. I mean, it's gonna
Yeah.
happen either way, but how you perceive it, how you do it, how you feel, what your experience is, that is a choice. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, well, I shall surrender now, and that's the end of this lovely talk show. So thank you very much for joining. I'm
Thank you
greatly
too.
honoured.
It's lovely.
Okay. Okay. Thank you then.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.